Well, thank you, Donna. I think that was a perfect leeway into what I'm going to be talking about today, which is the financial side of being small but acting big. I guess that's me. My experience here, the last 10 years or so, I've been at an investment bank where we work with wine and spirits brands and helping them to transact to some of the biggest strategics in the world. And just recently, I left to start my own company that helps to raise capital for brands, as well as Forecast Easy, which is taking the forecasting process for wine and spirits brands and broad consumer and making it way simpler, way easier to do, and something that founders can do on their own without the help of, CPAs or advisors. So that is how I fit into the industry here. And I want to talk a little bit about best practices of what you can do for forecasting so that when you try to raise capital or continue to raise capital, you've got a really compelling story and something that can make this process, which can take months or years, be as efficient as you possibly can. So I'm sure you've all tried to raise or are raising capital at some point, and we often see charts like this in decks, which we like to call the hockey stick graphs, where we say, hey, we're growing a little bit each year is what our actuals have done. But as we look to the future, oh my God, look at that hyper growth. We are going to be $100 million in sales in the next 3 or 4 years. Well, that may be true, but it's a very difficult story to tell. And when you're looking, when investors are looking at something like this, they'll discount overall what you're looking at and say, we'll give you 10%, 15% growth, whatever it is. You're not going to get full credit if all you do is have huge bars up there. So what can we do to make this more palatable to these investors? We could break it down into chunks. So if we look at the graph on the left here, we can say, look, we're starting out small, we're going to get big, but we're going to break down this 5-year growth into digestible chunks. So on the left side, we talk about channel. Here's what our growth looks like in the on-premise. It was COVID last year. We had about this much revenue the year before. We're just trying to get back into our accounts, so it's really not that much growth. The off-premise, we've been out of stock in Binny's and Costco and these other retailers. Do you believe we can get our 10% growth? Okay, sure. And then you go through online and the distillery and the club channels, and you can really start to paint the picture as to, oh, okay, I believe that chunk of growth in this next one. And before you know it, the investor or your shareholders or the board members may say, I don't believe the full plan, but I believe 70% of it, 80% of it, and so we're most of the way up there. And then the other way to do it really is on the right side, where we break it down by SKU. And some brands are single SKUs, and that's great, and that's super easy to do. But if you've got a few different products, it's really helpful to talk about the growth trajectory for each one of them. Because, it might be your vodka product that's leading the growth. And vodka can be scaled immediately, and there's not much working capital. But if it's the whiskey or tequila or something else that requires different working capital or aging requirements, very different capital needs and confidence in being able to grow that aspect of it. Also, this is very helpful for limited releases, where you could say, hey, look, this is our barrel strength bourbon. We sell out of it each and every year. We sold 500 cases last year. Now we've got liquid for 2,500 cases. Here's how much revenue and gross profit that will contribute to our overall company because we actually have it in stock. So how do we make something that gives us output that looks like this? It's actually really easy. All it takes is a grid. You list your SKUs on one side. Not all your SKUs. Some of you might have 10, 15, 20, 25 SKUs. Your 3 SKUs of most importance. Your 5 SKUs, probably not more than 10. And then your different channels, because we know, especially in the spirits industry, if you're selling your product through wholesale, you get a very different price than if you're selling it online, and a very different price than if you're selling it at the distillery or some tasting room. So let's list each of our main channels. And from there, we're just going to talk about volume, price, and SKU. And a lot of the forecasts I see are just, we did 1.2 million last year, let's grow at 10%. And that's fine, it might be right, but it's about the thought process that really matters, which is, okay, our high rye bourbon in the wholesale channel, we did 5,000 cases last year. What are we going to do this year? Let's talk about the same SKU in a different channel and go through that. then we want to do price separately from the volume, because we want to be able to increase our price or decrease our price or increase our discount percentage or our percentage on deal, and really, have it be an independent variable so that we can tell ourselves, our team, our investors, our shareholders exactly what the plan is. So we've got price per unit and then COGS per unit as well, because these typically they don't vary in channel, and any accountants out there are going to yell at me if I do say they vary by channel. But if we're shipping anything online, there's cost of shipping that you're probably eating that really needs to be built into a contribution margin to understand how successful the brand's being. So what does this give us? It gives us output where we can see here in the color-coded fashion where on the far right, we've got a 31% gross margin in 2021, which is, the medium orange, not very good. But when we break that down by channel, we can see online is 53%, a light green, pretty good. Distillery, 37, not that great. And our wholesale is just atrocious, and we're actually losing money on that channel as soon as we allocate cost. So by breaking it down into each of these three channels, we can really understand what are the components of the 31%, what channels should we grow, what channels should we exit, what channels are we losing money on, but we know we're losing money on, and that's okay. Some people will say it's not okay. So if we look into 2025, we get up to a 52% gross margin, and that means that this is really being led by a lot of volume in the online and DTC distillery channels. So being very thoughtful about each channel and each product that goes in there is essential for management of your business, and also essential to bring other folks along the ride with you. Financial metrics to target, I'll jump through this pretty quickly. Gross to net, so your list price versus price promotions, depletion allowance, any of that stuff. God, these numbers vary all over the industry. It depends on price point, it depends on category, it depends on where you're selling and how. 15% more or less is something to think about. I think I'd say 5 to 20% here. Something in that range is about right. If you're a little above, a little below, it's fine. Gross margin, so your revenue less your COGS. I'd love to see something with a 6 on it, 60-something%. At scale, you're probably going to be in the 30s, 40s, 50s, as you're starting. Don't need you to be at 60% today, but need to see a path to get you there. To be able to, really make money as a brand, and to have the optionality to either one day sell it to a strategic or just to make money on your own and be able to use that money to fund the business. SG&A varies unbelievably widely across companies. If you're really small, it doesn't even make sense to have a percentage of revenue because your team is outstripping the revenue. But once you're mature, call it $2-4 million in sales, think of 20 to 35% is probably the right amount. And then again, marketing, I've seen brands spend 150% of their sales on marketing. But once you're mature, think of, in that 8 to 20% as a metric to target. So that at the end of the day, operating income, EBITDA margins were somewhere in the 10 to 20% range, which, is what premium brands have. And finally, we'll talk through the different stages of how brands sort of grow over time in the investor profiles. So pre-launch, getting started innovators, 0 to 1 million net revenue. We're getting our first customers. We're testing sales and marketing strategies. The investors here, very quickly, it's friends and family. They're investing in you. There might be some accelerators. There might be some crowdfunding, but this is all about you. But when you're 1 to 6 million in revenue, you're small, you're mighty, you've got your repeatable, reliable customers, you're testing out your strategies and using those that work. And you're getting investment now from Spirit Venture Funds as well as CPG investment groups. And you're probably raising $3 to $20 million at this point in time. And finally, if you become a tomorrow's power brand, 6 to 20 in net revenue, you've got something working, a diverse set of customers, all of your different marketing strategies, you know what works, doesn't work, you're testing new ones to see what works better. This is where the world's your oyster. The strategics are interested in you, the private equity firms are interested in you, you're close to cash flowing if you'd like to be, and you can either go out for a full exit now or raise 20 to 80 million bucks off these profiles for a minority position. Very quick run through of all things financial and related to capital raise, so happy in the Q&A to answer any other things, but thank you so much for listening.